I don't want us to make light of it because we think about the professional athletes, staying it's too long because it's almost like it's a drug.
Right.
I'm not I was an athlete years ago, wasn't a professional athlete, but you enjoy the competitiveness and you feel like if you walk away from something, then um, you're leaving something on the table. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes walking away is walking into. But I
Right.
love that we have
I
to
like that.
just evaluate the situation and don't measure my leaving with someone else's leaving. I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and someone on that podcast had mentioned that last week they turned in their letter of resignation, and she said, I have something to share with the group. It was a group that she said, of course the question was what she says. Well, I did it. I turned in my resignation. And so the commenters said, well, what are you going to do next? She said, I have no idea. She said, but I know I'm older. I'm not going to be sitting at home baking the chicken for hubby every day. I'm not going to be keeping the grandkids on just whenever. I'm going to do something for me. She said,
Wow.
I gave my 2 weeks notice and I knew I couldn't do it anymore, but I have no clue of what the
Right.
future has for me. I know that it's more than what is going on with me. She was talking about her health
Yeah.
and how her blood pressure was up and how she was stressing out. And for the last 2 years, she just had been in such an unhealthy place. And she went into the office and said, this is it. And then she called her husband and said, I just quit. And
Oh my.
he asked her, and I'm telling you, it resonated with me. And he just asked her, are you okay? And she said, yes. He said, well, we're going to be fine. And it just resonated with me because
Yeah.
that's kind of how it was for me a little
Yeah.
bit. So I think when you get to that place, it's not something that you just got to. It's been a
Yeah.
process.
You know, I can speak to that
Mm,
a little bit. And I know we have kind of a younger demographic, but what you're saying is something ultimately that I'm approaching with my career as well. I'm only 54, but I've been doing this almost 30 years now. And
mhm.
Yes.
this year, I just hit this point when I mentioned burnout. I'm thinking of myself. This year, I hit that burnout
Yes.
mode. And I've done the same thing. I've been talking to people and telling them that by the end of the year, I will still be at my clinic. I will still, see patients and whatnot, but my job is going to change. And what
Yes.
I don't know. I've got several irons in the fire. Let me tell you.
Yes.
But you sometimes you just reach this point where you're like, I think it forces you to make a change, even if you're not completely planned and ready. And I would like to be a little bit more planned than that because I have children in college and lots of people to take care of,
Right. Right.
a little better than that. But everybody around me was very supportive and said, you've earned it now to be able to make some decisions.
And I
And
don't think it's anything wrong with really coming to that place of saying, I'm tired, but you have to really think about, and maybe you have worked this woman that was this lady that was speaking this morning. She had been in her profession for many years, and she said that she really had thought it, she just couldn't do it anymore.
it just
And so, to our younger demographics, I want you to put in here in your comments, give us some questions on: are you feeling burnout? Are you overstaying your welcome? Or are you in a place in your professional career that you're wanting to make some changes? Or are you wanting to do something different? Whatever questions you have for us along this
please,
conversation, throw them in here.
please.
Day, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so when I was doing some work in around generational differences, since we're talking about where you guys are and where the population of the listeners are,
Hmm.
what we noticed is that the millennials, the even Gen Zers, yeah, under the
Yeah.
millennials, are more attracted to being a part of something that has a bigger purpose.
Right.
Like you would
Right.
literally leave your job, money, status, all the things
Yeah.
if you don't have a connection to something versus I've seen my mom and I have an older sister who's a Gen Wire, and she's more of or Gen X. She's like, I'm gonna stick with it and keep working because that's kind of how I was raised. I'm gonna put in the
Hmm.
time, and
Hmm.
they'll stick it out even till to the detriment, right?
Mm.
They'll stick it out. And I feel like as a younger generation has that drive to a purpose and a fulfillment that's beyond the status and the money, you really may get to the point of feeling like you have overstayed your welcome quicker and ready to make a jump more so than your parents and your older siblings.
And I
So
love that because
yeah,
it's
I think
true.
that
Go
happens
ahead.
more.
Yes.
I
So to say
really
it
love
happens
that. And
more.
that's what I love about the younger generation, because at the same time, that's the same thing that drives me crazy about y'all too. But anyway, I love the fact that if it doesn't mean something to you, if it doesn't connect with you guys, you're not going to stay there. And I think that's a great thing for an employer. I think that's great for the business, because that also helps the business move on if you're not happy. If you're not, I wouldn't want to recommend my kids stay in something that's not going to make them happy,
Absolutely.
because they're not going to be fulfilled and they're going to mess their own reputation up.
Right.
However, you can't jump ship as soon as you get in there. You
Right.
got to give it a chance. You can't be a quitter, because if you're quitting all the time, you just will never succeed at anything.